Hello everybody and welcome back. Today I'm going to be breaking away from my resin art and I'm going to be just working on some mixed media, and I like working with three-dimensional elements, so I'm hoping that this will be a fun and exciting video for you as well. What I did was I took an old canvas and I gessoed, and then I added some raw umber paint over it, and over top of that I added a crackle medium, and I allowed all of that to completely dry. And here you see me adding, well, they call it a beige color, but it's really an off-white or a cream color. It's just a really soft white color from Lucas Krill. Now you don't want to overwork your paint. You just want to get a good healthy amount on your brush and make sure you get good coverage. Okay, you can already start to see that crackle medium begin to work. But for the sake of video, I'm going to use my heat gun and hit this up, being very careful not to burn or blister my paint. You want to make sure you have enough paste on your palette knife such that you're not scraping your board, or you're not hearing that scraping sound. Okay, so let me show you how I made my roses. I just have these fondant molds and chocolate molds, and basically use them with my clay to form my flowers. And the first thing you need to do is to add some cornstarch into your mold. I had forgotten to do that on my first one, and it really left a mess inside the mold. It was very difficult to get the clay out of the mold. So here I'm just using a cheap makeup brush that I purchased from Dollar Tree. It was a whole set of them. And I'm just going around inside of the mold and making sure it's covered. I'm showing you there that in certain molds there are sometimes those strips, and they can be very difficult to get out, and so you really want to make sure that you're using the cornstarch to release your clay from the mold. And I'm just using air dry clay today. This is just a tub that my granddaughter and I play with when she comes to stay with us. She likes to create things, and it doesn't really matter which air dry clay you use. It's just like playing with Play-Doh basically, and there's no baking to this whatsoever. It does exactly as the title says it will do, and just dries to air. So I just kind of fashioned a ball and then flattened it out, and then I'm sticking it and pressing it down into the mold, and just making sure I've got a good seal into the mold. Sometimes I use this little silicone spatula to kind of help take any excess off, but mostly I just use my fingers. It seems to work better than most things. Now there is kind of a trick to getting these out. You want to be able to flex that silicone mold away from the edges, and then you want to push up from the bottom of the mold so that it releases your clay. And that's as simple as that. Now this is going to take several hours to dry. I did make some in advance, as I had stated before, and they've been drying for a couple of hours at this point, but it is probably going to take at least overnight before they're significantly dry. Now, since I have some of these flowers made up in advance, I'm going to go ahead and adhere them to my modeling paste. Just go ahead and set them in the areas where I want them to be at on my board. You can totally wait and put these on, after everything is painted, like your flowers and your pumpkin and all of that. You can totally do that and just attach it with glue. But I'm using my modeling paste as my glue here, and it worked out perfectly. It's set up real well. I'm just straightening back out any textures that I may have missed. You can see that spot there keeps opening back up again. I'm just getting more modeling paste up there. That's where the paint wasn't 100% dry when I added my modeling paste over it. Now the modeling paste does take a quite considerable amount of time to dry as well. And so this was actually a two-part video that I did over on my Facebook channel for my Facebook followers. And at this point, I'm just going to take my heat gun again and see if I can get the majority of it dry. Just be super careful with your heat gun on these acrylic-based products, because it will burn your paint and cause the paint to blister up off of your canvas. And that's a bad day. It could also crack your clay because it'll cause it to dry too quickly. All right, sticking with my Lucas Krill, I'm going ahead and using this very soft blue, and I'm going to mix it with some of the beige. It's kind of an off-white color, really, but I'm just kind of mixing it in to create an even softer blue. I'm really looking for more farmhouse colors with the creams, the whites, the creams, light blue, and kind of neutral tones. Now obviously this video is sped up and it takes a little bit of time for this process to occur. But I'm just adding a nice healthy amount of paint to the pumpkin and over my modeling paste. And because I used the modeling paste, it really did add nice texture there. And the added paint just contributes to that texture. If you've followed me for any amount of time, you know that I am a mixed media artist. I actually identify more as a multimedia artist because I use so many different types of mediums. So resin and glass is what you see a lot of here on YouTube, but I do a lot of mixed media, and I do watercolor, soft pastels, alcohol inks, and so on. And so there I just showed you some of my, I guess it's pronounced Cerne, it's C-E-R-N-E, relief paint. This is Duraclear. I got that off of Amazon, but I believe they carry it in your local hobby stores. And it's by Deco Art. It's like a polyacrylic, a urethane type, water-based urethane sealant. I'm just showing you there my flowers and where they're at, since I made them earlier, what they look like. All right, so those are a couple of the other flowers that I made, and I've just gone ahead and set all of those on my pumpkin. This is the next day now, the second part of my video, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint the flowers that need to be painted. You can see that some of them already have color on them, and I did not paint those. I actually dusted my molds with mica powders and chameleon powders, and before I put my air dry clay in, and so it came out with those very soft colors on the flowers already. So I'm kind of I kind of made myself a little bit of a taupey color, and those medium-sized flowers I'm hitting up with that. I'm going to leave the other two white, but I did paint them like a color shift, ivory, and you should be able to see it better, but you really can't. I think it's just because of the clay itself is absorbing some of the moisture out of the clay or out of the paint, but it still looks good. There's my Kearney relief, and I'm just showing here that my Nouveau crystal drops, those do something similar to the relief paint that I use. They're very similar. You can get these off of Amazon. They're called Nouveau crystal drops. And then I have this Viva pearl pen, and that does really, really well as well. Really pretty color on that. But all three of these types of paints are meant to stay their shape when they have fine tip applicators. Matter of fact, they get clogged up pretty easily if you haven't used them in a while. So I just keep a head pin for jewelry finding on standby so that I can run it down inside of the nozzles if I need to. So I just put the pearl pen paint, say that 10 times, into the centers of those medium colored taupey flowers that I did. And it's about the size of a small button, and it makes it look like there are pearl centers sitting there. Now I've gotten some of my Nouveau drops, and I'm just going to play around. At this point, I'm kind of showing what these drops can do while I was doing my live presentation, but it's the same principle of just keeping that dimensional part of the paint so it doesn't flatten or level itself out. The good part is that it comes in, I think this came as a 5-pack. So it comes in several colors. This was one of their Christmas sets, and it came with kind of a raspberry pinky red color, a really pretty green, kind of a very soft gold, a pearl white in one pack, and it wasn't very expensive. And there's the red pink colors, maybe mauve-y looking. Please pardon my head. I was really trying to get a really good look at these drops coming out. The glare that was on my canvas was making it difficult to see, and so I was trying to get up close to it to make sure that I was hitting it right. You can see that there are some darker blue areas on my canvas as well. And what I did there was just took some of my Cernay or Kearney or whatever, the relief paint in the little tube. I took that right at the end of yesterday's painting, and I drew out leaves, shapes of leaves. And then I took some of my Duraclear, like I am right here, and I added some of my glitter to it. You don't have to use very much of either one, and you just mix it up really well. You want it about the consistency of a gel fingernail polish. And you just incorporate them really nicely in together. And when you have it the consistency that you'd like, then you just paint it on the areas. And right there where I pointed to, that's where I'm going to be painting this glitter. It's called Paris Lights, I believe. Yeah, Paris Lights. I got it from Dryer Days Art Studio, and I'm just going to paint those in the voids that I left from my relief paint. And now just flip my canvas over, and I'm going to work on the top portion of the stem using that same glitter mixture. Okay, so at this point I'm going to fashion some leaves out of my washi tape. I just pulled a tape that has some very similar colors to what I'm using. I would have preferred it to be a wider tape, but I did not have any on hand. But you make do. So I'm just going to go ahead and make and cut out something as close to what resembles a leaf as I can. So you can just use varying sizes for different things. I had some thinner tape that I could have used to do other things with, but I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible here because I don't want to distract from all the other things that I have going on. So this is just a different color, something with a little bit of bling. Now I can take either one of these and just outline. I'm just going to add some outlines around the tape that I just laid down. And I'm intentionally leaving some voids on around the leaves so that I can fill that in with more of my glitter mixtures. And so I wanted to show my group this little hack, I guess, and um, I've never done this before on any of my artwork, but it's something that I've seen resin artists resin artists and Tumblr artists do. And I'm just cutting out a temporary tattoo. These are little hummingbirds, and I'm going to place a few of these on my board. And these have a little plastic coating on them. You peel that off and then adhere it upside down to the board. And once you have it down, you cannot remove it without it being wet first. So I'm just taking a saturated paper towel and I'm dampening that paper backing, and that slides right off. And it's just that simple. So I'm going to add just one or two more. And so just that quickly and easily, we have 3 hummingbirds down on my painting. So I'm just going to give everything a quick go over with my heat gun. Now I'm just going in and filling in those voids that I drew with my relief paint earlier. And there we have it. It was a fun little piece. I like adding dimension to my art. Thanks for watching. Come back again.